Hello, my name is Connor Monahan, and welcome to my presentation, Loops in Python, For and While Loops. This presentation is designed to be an overview or a supplement to the PLTW computer science curriculum offered at high schools. Starting off with a for loop. A for loop is designed to iterate across a specific data source. It can iterate off a list or a range, and there are multiple types of for loops. There's C-style and the enhanced for loop, which is often called a for each loop. The C-style loop is what most students are started with, and I will give an example shortly. These are a couple examples of a C-style for loop. The first loop iterates 5 times using the range command, and the second loop iterates 10 times, printing the number value each time. I will give a quick demonstration as to how these work in actual code. Here is my programming environment, and I will type in the first loop for I in range 5. I would like to print the message hello, and presumably you may be able to guess what this will do. This simply prints the message hello to the console 5 times. Now I will attempt the second loop. What I will do here is I will use Python's comments to disable that code from running, and I will input the second loop for I in range 10. I would like to print I. Let's run the file. And as you can see in the console below, it has printed every value from 0 to 9. The I value here represents the variable that is filled with results from this list. This is the C style, where it simply iterates across a range of numbers. But the enhanced architecture of Python essentially allows this to work across any lists, as we will discover. Let's move on. However, when you think about range, what actually is range? Range is a function built into Python that accepts a number, but what does it actually do besides make this loop run 5 times? Let's investigate this, shall we? Now, in the Python console, let's simply type in range without inputting a loop. What does this give us? This gives us a simple Python list of 5 numbers from 0 to 4. Therefore, if I wanted to, I could simply replace this code here with code that looks like this. And run the code. We can see that it retains the same behavior as before. The range function is simply a function that generates a list with numbers of incremental value with a specific length as defined by your argument. So the process taken by a for loop when it is run by the Python interpreter is the interpreter first runs the previous code in your program, and then when the for loop starts, it takes the first element from its list. In this case, the first element of the range list was 0, and it saves it to the named variable. In this case, I was our named variable, and that runs the code inside of the for loop. In this example, the only code inside of the for loop is a print function, which prints the value of I. So for the first iteration, it will print 0. And then, for the second iteration, it'll take the second element from the list, save it to variable I, and then call the code. In this case, this will print 1 because 1 is the second element of the list. It will repeat this process over and over again until it encounters the last element of the list, upon which it will stop. These are examples of for loops that may be used in practice. The numbers example is exactly like the example just given, where range is replaced with an array. The names example is slightly different, and it may be more conducive to actual use of programming, and I will show this used down below. Any strings will work. Now, when this code is executed, it will print off every name from the list in sequence. As the way it's processed is the code takes the first element from the list, saves it in this variable, and then runs this code, printing off John. And then it repeats this for the second element, and the third element, and then the fourth element, and then it stops. There are many applications of for loops. One example, for each player attacking a monster, deal X damage. For each student in ACT's database, send promotional email, or count from 1 to infinity and print out prime numbers. While loops are similar to for loops in that they process data, but instead of a for loop, which depends on a list, a while loop is simply dependent on a condition. It repeats until a certain condition is met. Its process starts with the previous code, and the first iteration of a while loop asks, is this condition true? If this condition is true, then it'll run the code inside the loop. Second iteration, it will check that condition is true again, and if so, it'll run the code inside the loop, and it'll continue repeating this until the condition proves not true. This is a simple humorous example in which that it continuously checks the condition of whether or not the world is ending, and if the world is not ending, then it will do the code inside the loop. This is a simple example of a while loop that closely mirrors the C-style for loop using range earlier. I will run this code. As you might suspect, this code is identical to the for loop. However, while loops are not confined to the same conditions as for loops. Some examples of while loops are while player is not typed a valid command, continually ask for input. And for example, with computer vision and robotics, while a camera is plugged in, take frames from the camera and process them through an algorithm. Thank you for watching my video, and feel free to email me if you have any additional questions.